Welcome back to the Winded Podcast. We got a very special guest today, just ahead of Christmas. We have Anna Caruso, aka Derek Whitelover from TikTok, on the show today. Anna, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Seamus. How we doing?
I'm excellent. I'm so glad that you were able to make time, especially this is a busy week for a lot of people. So I appreciate you taking the time. And we're going to get into a bunch of stuff. We're going to get into obviously your TikTok and your Boston Celtics and Drake May and your New England Patriots. But before we do that, Anna, why don't you just tell the people a little bit about yourself if they don't know you? Just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know me, I am recently a full-time Boston native. Just got my license. I spent my entire life actually growing up in New Jersey. So I grew up in enemy territory my entire life. My dad's whole family is still in Massachusetts, so that was kind of my ties to Boston sports. And distance makes the heart grow fonder. So for college, ended up going to Northeastern, spent a lot of time around my teams and got to watch the Celtics win in 24, I think was probably like the best part. It was my first parade I had ever been to. So the past 4 years have definitely really just kind of amped up my love and, decided to take that love right on over to TikTok, which is kind of where you probably have seen my face before, for those of you who haven't.
Yeah, definitely. So it's interesting. You've been a fan of Boston, not living here, but really there's been kind of a resurgence in the time. There were a couple down years, couple of, for Boston standards. But
Exactly.
since you've been in the area, things are at least trending up. And obviously you got to see the Celtics win in 24, but really the state of all four franchises are at least going in the right direction. They may not be exactly where we want them to be, but they're at least going that way.
I mean, I think especially the Patriots, right? Like this past season has completely and utterly exceeded expectations to the point where we're what? We're 12-3 right now. And every single time I turn on my TV or I'm going to a game, I feel like I'm reliving my childhood all over again, right? I feel like, especially all fans, like we're back in that expecting a win every single Sunday. And it's like we've been out of just clinched the playoffs on Sunday. And it's like, oh my God, it was the longest drought of our lives. And it's like, it's a fact. But it's been 4 years and like we're so completely spoiled. But I think it is just really like my 7, 9, 11-year-old self is just living like so vicariously through me right now. So it's really cool to be able to actually be all around all the fans, be at the games, going out to a bar and being surrounded by all Patriots fans. It's really just, it's awesome to see the community in action, during our resurgence.
Yeah, I was probably about your age, kind of the first go around of like all the success when they were winning every year. And it was just so fun to be, you know, in your 20s and everybody's good. And there's, a parade, if not every couple months, every other year. And it's just, you can see it I work in restaurants or have worked in restaurants. You can see it in the success of that, going to Northeastern, that area, all around Fenway, when the Red Sox are good, there's just a different feel in the city, even away from the stadiums, driving around riding around on the tee. It's like there's just an energy. You see the gear. It's always great when the teams are good. And I'm not even a Patriots fan first. Sorry to break that
You're
to
a
you.
Cowboys guy.
I am a Cowboys guy, unfortunately, but I've always kind of been a little bit of a Patriots troll. But I do love watching this team play. Drake May is something else for sure, and Mike Vrabel. How can you not love that guy? So it is exciting to see them do well.
No, I think especially, you said it, Mike Vrabel. I mean, what he has done, and I think just like watching him lead this team, and n- he's like the exact locker room coach that you want. Like, I don't know what he's saying to them. I don't know like what they talk about, but like you can just tell like he instills something in them that just like they go out and they fight every single week. And he's a big adjustments guy. So it's like anytime, you're watching a game and the other team is getting up early on us, whether it's a touchdown field, like if they're scoring ahead of us, it's like, oh, like Vrabel's gonna flip the script and he's gonna make sure like they hold on and they fight until the last minute, except the Bills game. I don't know what happened there. They did take their foot off the gas a little bit, but it
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, he's like got this weird balance of like he's crazy, but he's also like obviously very smart, but then he checks off a lot of boxes as far as he's a player's guy, but he can be tough when he needs to be. He'll put on the pads literally. It's, the preseason stuff, getting in the middle of the fights, walking out of it with blood on his face is just like,
Inspirational.
yeah, it is truly, you can see why those guys play hard for him.
Yeah, I love to see it. I think when they were bringing back Gerard Mayo, I think I spent, I was a little older when he was on the team. So I think for me, it was a little bit of like, oh, like I remember watching him. And I think it's so cool that this is such a like a full circle. But it was really hard then, like as a fan, to watch like someone who, I admired growing up and being like, oh, like maybe he wasn't the right answer. And then the second I found out Vrabel was coming back, like I went right to Instagram. I found the Patriots post and I posted it with Daddy's home on my story, and I was like, "This is gonna be a brand new era," and I knew it from the second it happened, and, like, again, exceeded all expectations, and I'm so thankful that, this is the guy who's gonna be leading our team, hopefully up until the end of his career.
Yeah, so you said it exceeding expectations. They've obviously done that so far. What are your adjusted expectations now as they have clinched, have a chance this weekend to clinch the division? And I'm pretty sure they can't be any lower than a 2 seed. Still have hope for the 1 seed, but can't be any lower than a 2 seed. What are the expectations now?
I I think the way that they've played, the second game first and second game against the Bills have been extremely competitive. I think the Ravens gave them a little run for their money. If Lamar didn't get injured, I don't know how the rest of that game would have panned out, quite honestly. But I think, again, like these are things that we're going to see in the playoffs. We're going to see how this team actually plays against, teams with that playoff experience, teams who are just tenacious and like may have had tougher schedules than we did. So I would want to go in saying if we don't get the first round bye, which is going to be tricky up against Denver, who has that tiebreaker against us, I would at least wanna see him in the second round. I'm not gonna sit here and I'm not gonna be the delusional person being like, "We're going to get our 7th ring this year." Like, you don't really want that because what is that really gonna do? You're not gonna learn anything from this season, and if, Drake May comes in his sophomore season and wins a ring, poor kid's gonna be set up with Brady expectations for every season going forward, which, like, you wanna see him I at least just wanna see him make a good competitive mark in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and you've seen really all teams that go on to either win or have any sort of sustained success, they have that first kind of moment of where they get the taste of the playoffs. They, may or win a round or two, but they don't ultimately win it all. You saw it with the Celtics. They obviously had to get over the hump. Obviously, the Chiefs, when before they went on their run, they kept running into the Patriots. So it's not like if they don't do it on their first go, it's never going to happen. It's usually if they don't get it on their first go, it is just setting them up for it in the future.
No, I agree 100%, and I think it'll make it a lot sweeter, right? It's like if we're gonna sit back and we're gonna watch this team continue to develop and continue to, make the moves that they make. I know in the offseason, like, they're gonna push for AJ Brown, I've been seeing rumors for, and I'm like, how fucking cool would that be, if we have him in our rotation? But I do think within the next 5 years, granted everyone is healthy, granted, like, we continue with this momentum, like, we're gonna see a ring, very soon, which and crazy to think that, after the dynasty, a new one's already starting.
As bad as they looked with Gerard Mayo, it's crazy that here we are a year later, not even a year later, because they hadn't even finished the season yet. Like they were still, it's the turnaround is impressive. But I do want to get into the Celtics because I will say the Winded podcast is not known for their Celtics talk. So I'm glad to have you on to kind of bridge that gap a little bit.
Awesome.
Um, or actually, first, let me ask you this: how do you rank your teams? Like, what how do you prioritize them, if you even can? Are they like your kids? You can't pick your favorite, or do you lean Celtics over anybody else?
That is a question that people ask me all of the time, and I think as a parent, I would say, "Well, I can't choose a favorite," yada yada. I would say the sport that I admittedly know the least about is hockey. So I would say just, like, kinda based off that fact, like, I love the Bruins, but, like, I cannot go and watch the Bruins play any other team and, like, know the history of that other team or, like, kind of know, like, the star so, right, it's one of those where it's like, okay, Bruins are probably 4th. I would say just given on how uninvolved I was with watching the Patriots, they were my 3rd. But now it kind of is like, it's a very close like Patriots, I would say Celtics and Red Sox are just like very easily tied for my top 2. And I also think it comes from just like, in a given football season, I'm watching my team at a minimum play 17 games. But then it's like I get to basketball season, I'm watching them 82 times out of the year. And the Red Sox, I'm watching 162 days out of the year or games, double headers gives you maybe like 156 or something like that. But I would say it's like Celtics, Red Sox go back and forth. Patriots are just like slightly underneath that. And then the Bruins are just like a little bit more underneath.
Understood. Yeah, hockey's definitely it's a, like, mainstream niche thing where it's like it's big for the people that it's big with, but everybody can enjoy it and go, but, like, to really be, like, as invested as those other sports, it's a little trickier. So I definitely see that. I was gonna call you out for not doing as much Bruin stuff. I feel like the only thing I've seen is, um, I think you had a Halloween costume where you were like the Bruins, like
I was the detective. I was
yeah.
like, solving the murder mystery of the
Yeah.
franchise. But yeah, that is one thing I was actually thinking about that this morning. I'm like, shit, like I really don't make a lot of Bruins content, and I wonder if anyone's like going to call me out on that. So, for the rest of the season, I'm tuned in. I'm
There you
gonna,
go.
Morgan Drake May geeky.
There you go.
I'm a big fan of him. I love pasta. I think, the Marchand trade for me was and I was pretty invested in the Bruins before then, but I think him leaving and Coyle leaving, I really was just kind of on like a boycott era. And I was like, I just don't really know if I can give my money and my attention to this franchise, like after seeing how that panned out.
Yeah, understood. And really the attention and money is what fuels the teams, and they don't make adjustments if you kind of continue to blindly follow and do all of that. So,
Yeah.
you gotta, do your protest in your own way. So
I
I totally
try.
get that.
And, so the game where the Panthers came to TD Garden 4 days after Marchand got traded, I told my boyfriend, I'm like, "We gotta go." I'm like, "We're going to this game," and I made a little sign that, I printed on his face and it says, "Alexa, play I Love You, I'm Sorry" by Gracie Abrams, and I was like I fully expected to walk in and just have TD Garden be, like, silent, like a funeral. I was expecting the tribute video, even though he was injured, I'm like, "He is in the Garden, like, we're so remiss if we don't do anything for him." People acted like nothing happened. There was not an out like, people were, like, excited about the game. You could tell, like, everyone was acting like it was just, like, a normal run-of-the-mill regular season game, and I was just like, "Who the fuck are these people?" I'm like, "This is just not this isn't the franchise and, like, the fans that I would expect to show out for this game and, like, show their support for Marchand." It was just absurd to me.
Yeah, definitely. It was yeah. People it's weird when you go to the games and it seems like it's just such a different subset of people than, like, you hear talking about it or that you interact with regularly. When
Mhm.
you go and you're like, "Oh," you're and I'm all for, like, sports are for everyone and it's fun and it's entertaining, and it used to bother me when you'd go and you'd see, people that are just, like, they're there to take pictures, they're there to, like, say that they're there. I've softened on that, but, it is strange how it's like, we're all here to watch the same thing, but we have very different, like, connections to it.
I agree. I think that's something that I've really noticed. And, with ticket prices, right? Like the Bruins and the Celtics, and, especially like when your teams are so good, you're not getting the fans in the door because real fans, like I struggle sometimes when I'm like, I would love to go and watch the Celtics Lakers game. Any diehard Celtics fan would love to go and watch that game live, right? And even with LeBron in the door, even with Austin Reeves in the door. But it's like, I can't just pick up $180 for nosebleed tickets, like, out of my ass, like, that it's impossible, so I've always said, like, I wish there was something that could be done like the Red Sox, they do their, like, neighborhood nines or their student nines where they get, people in the door. I'm like, I think other teams need to start to pick up on that just to make sure that they're getting, they're supporting the fans that genuinely are so invested in these teams that just can't, pay whatever they want on these tickets.
Yeah, it's funny. If I go into a Red Sox season and I think there's 0 chance that they win the World Series, I'm like, I just want them to be bad. I want them to be so I can go. Or at least
And just tank the season.
At least so my favorite is when they start slow, because then it's like, "Oh, I can buy tickets, like, further out and people aren't buying them up." But then when they get hot and it's the middle of the summer, it's like, "Alright, well, I'm not even gonna bother now."
I mean, it was July of 2025 this year was think honestly, like, I peaked a little bit. I was there for Zidane walk-off against Tampa. I was
Okay.
sitting way oh my god, me and my friend, we got these insane seats. We were way on the left field side, and that ball literally went right over us. And I was like, I'm like, "There's something here." You know, then everybody's like, "10-game win streak," everybody was, like, running for tickets, and the cheapest ones were, like, 155. But then, hey, who'da thunk? The Student 9 tickets came out, so me and my friends, we got $9 tickets to go watch Garrett Crochet shutout, and I was like,
I was there
"Wait."
for that one too.
Oh my god, it was brutally hot, we were sitting in the bleachers, sun was beaming down on us, but I'm like, "This is exactly where I'm meant to be right now."
Mhm. No, that was that was the only game I went to this year. I couldn't believe that that was the one I
That
looked
was
out
the
for.
game, like, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, on the topic of the Red Sox, you have some connection to the Red Sox.
I do. So starting I want to say it was my sophomore year summer. So like going into my sophomore year of college, I got the opportunity to start working for the Red Sox Foundation. So if you ever see the people in their little neon vests holding up 50-50 signs, that's what I do. So during home games, I get to walk around. I get to spread the mission of, the Red Sox Foundation, all their partner charities. So they work with like the Jimmy Fund, and some other more notable charities. But it's very fulfilling work, I will say. After working for America's number one sports book, I need a little need a little do good in my soul, and it definitely does the job.
Yeah, that it's so for those that don't know what the Red Sox Foundation is, do you wanna just go into that a little bit more? I know you
Yeah.
said the Jimmy Fund.
So it's the Jimmy Fund. It's home base, which provides care and resources to veterans. They also do Red Sox scholars, so that gives up kids opportunities for educational scholarships throughout the city. They just do so much good work. And there's some times where like I'll see things and I'm like, I didn't even know like they had a foot in the door there, but it's genuinely all around the city. If you see like any sort of, it's the Red Sox logo with a little heart in it, that's them. And they're quite literally almost everywhere. It's great.
Yeah, it's for all the bashing that people like to do on the Red Sox for whether they spend, whether the prices are outrageous. It is good that they do have, their charitable endeavors, and obviously the Red Sox Foundation, everything that they do. Jimmy Fund is great, and I'm sure to be a part of that is special.
It is, and I think too also seeing, they really do a great job on social media too, which I'm very passionate about. I think social media should be used to try and, spread these missions and like, they'll post all the pictures of, their team captains who are going and visiting kids in the hospital and making sure they're like shining light on like, all the different things that they do. It's really special when I get to look at that and I'm just like, huh, like I was able to, raise that money and, be a part of it. It really is really special.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That is great. I wanna get into your TikTok. Your TikTok has exploded over when did you start the Derek White Lover account?
Okay, so the backstory on the account itself was my original TikTok got hacked somehow. And so I was like, I'm gonna need a new username. And this is like about the time that Drake May Lover had started to pop off a little bit. And
Okay.
I was seeing kind of, Bucky Irving Lover for me, I think was like really the original account. And I was like, okay, like for shits and gigs, because I always knew I was like, I really did want to get into the Boston sports space. I just like didn't know how to do it. And I'm like, I'm just gonna take the username Derek White Lover. But I wanted to be different and I did the LUVR, whatever. Um, and then it took a little bit for me to like really figure out how I wanted to do it. I think being in college, it was tricky because I'm like, oh my God, like I'm gonna show up on like all these people for you pages and they're gonna think I'm like so weird. And like I still do, but I'm graduated now, so I don't really care. Um, but it really started when after Peyton Tolley's MLB debut and Greg Weisser came in and he fucked everything up, right? Like Peyton Tolley had like 8 strikeouts. Like we were going to win that game. And Greg Weisser came in and sold it to the Orioles. And I was so pissed. Like pick up the phone and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, and again, like as you were saying earlier, it's like I just did it as raw and organically as possible. I picked up the phone, I said what I wanted to say, and I threw it down. And I was like, I'm not gonna think about it. And then next thing I know, Jared Carabas like is like, this is my new favorite reaction video. And I was like, oh my God. And I think from there, that kind of showed I'm like, all right, I think I'm starting to show up on the right people's pages. Like I really think like my algorithm was working in my favor. And I kept doing it and I kept listening to what other people were saying. watching the different formats that people were posting in, like how they were kind of striking the balance of like what you say in the video versus what you say in the copy and like all those like little things that like even working in social media has taught me. And recently, I don't even really know what's happened, but I just think like I've been striking gold every time and it's awesome. I'm like, as long as people are laughing at what I'm having to say, they agree with what I'm saying, I'm like, that's all that matters at the end of the day. And I want to create a page that people can go to and they can go to the comments and they can interact with each other too. I think that's kind of like the most special part is I'm like, I want to create a community at the end of the day.
Yeah, you're definitely doing that, and just honestly, in the time since I initially reached out to you to try and set this up, it's your account has exploded even in that amount of time, and it's just you're I think, yeah, so what we talked about before we got on is I asked you if it's everything's planned out or if it's just, organic, and it does show through that, like, this is a genuine thought that you're doing or that you're saying, and there's not, it's not scripted, it's probably one take, and it's just like, "Let's move on."
Sometimes it has to be multiple because I trip over my words a lot.
Mhm.
But it's always the original thought that's there.
Yeah, but I definitely encourage anybody who hasn't checked out not to blow you up, but check out your stuff, and even I've gone when I was after the Patriots on Sunday, I'm like, "I gotta see how she's gonna react to this or, like, what her responses are." And I kind of now it's in my habit of when I'm on TikTok, like, "Oh, I wonder what she has to say after the Celtics did this." So, it truly is it's fun, it's genuine is the most it's you're not trying to be anything you're not. You obviously know what you're talking about, but it's you're not trying to be a reporter up there. You're just like, this is what I feel about this. And, you're not afraid to talk bad about your team. You're not afraid to blow them up. So um, it's really an enjoyable account to follow. And I hope that you continue the success you're having.
I appreciate that. Like genuinely, that makes me so happy because that's exactly like what I want to people to take away from it is like I I will speak candidly. Like I'm not going to be someone who sits here and I know so many people that do this and they try to take such a like buttoned up approach to it. I'm like that's not what being a fan is. Like if you're a fan, like you're going to ride the highest highs and you're going to crash out at the lowest lows.
Definitely. That's what it's all about.
It's
I'm a
all
Cowboys
about.
fan. You don't have to tell me.
I really don't have
It's usually the lowest lows. So I'm used to that. But let's get into the Celtics. Derek White lover is your account. Is Derek White your favorite player on the Celtics?
to. So look at this crew neck that I was gifted. This
Oh, that's
was
great.
a nice little Christmas gift, which I think is, that's a mark of someone who knows you very well.
Yes.
So, where it started for me with Derek White was game 6 in 23 against Miami. And I was like, this guy is playing to the absolute last second and he's a role player, which is what I love the most about him. I think something I've noticed in the NBA and the NBA as a product, I think everyone knows kind of sucks, right?
Yeah.
Um but he makes it really exciting. He is a guard who can block. He can play anyone on defense. He's tenacious. And I think you don't really get that out of a lot of players. I think, especially on the defense aspect, like not a lot of guys are playing defense in the league, and he always will, which is what I love about him. And it's just something about him is so exciting to watch. And he's really not a lot of other people's favorite player, right? Everybody in the city glazes Tatum, which like deserved. Everybody glazes
But that's
Brown.
easy. That's easy,
It's easy, and I'm like, having a even Peyton Pritchard to a certain degree, and I think, like, I love him. I also do love Peyton Pritchard, but I think something about Derek White is just he's a little goofy, he's so humble, he really keeps out of the media, but, like, he's just a good ball player at the end of the day.
He's like the kind of classic Boston athlete that isn't the superstar, but can elevate in the big moment. Reminds me of like Trot Nixon back in the day, who's like, he's not an all-star, or I guess Derek White is. Has he been an all-star? I know he was on the Olympic team.
I was just gonna say, me and my brother were watching the, Court of Gold earlier, and I was so excited because 'cause I'm like, "Oh my god, they're gonna show Derek White."
But like you don't necessarily have to be like this superstar to like be a relevant memorable player in this, especially in Boston. I think in smaller markets, those like kind of second level kind of players don't get the props that they deserve because there isn't the passion. But a guy like Derek White plays hard. I mean, that was the game you were referencing. That's the layup or the tip in at the last second, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean that was just a,
A beautiful moment for Celtics fans everywhere,
yeah,
to say the least. I was at my friend's house down the Cape, and, everyone is, like, kinda watching the game. I'm screaming, jumping, running around like, "Holy shit, Derek White!" And they're kind of like, "Who?" And I was like, "Okay, this is how I knew, like, there was a passion that was so much deeper for this guy than anyone else."
yeah. So we talked about expectations for the Patriots and what they were going into the year. And actually, if you look at all four teams going into their most recent seasons, the expectations for all of them were relatively low.
Mhm.
And I think all four exceeded them or have exceeded them so far. But what were your thoughts, obviously, with Jason Tatum being out going into this Celtics season? What did you hope for from them? Were you thinking this is a lost season, or what were your thoughts going into the year?
So, this is a really hot take that people kind of look at me afterwards, they're like, I was not you never wanna wish an injury. I never ever wished that it would happen, but I do think Tatum being out for this season was kind of exciting a little bit, right? I think he's obviously our go-to guy. He's a little bit of a ball hog sometimes, but my thought process there was I was like, "We're gonna have a young team, a lot of new guys, a lot of new chemistry to figure out. Let's develop our bench a little bit. Let's see, like, what these other guys have, because if you don't do that, you're not gonna be a championship contending team." It's exactly what we had in 24. Tatum would take the reins, but then you would have other guys step onto the court and you were like, well, yeah, like they've had enough time in the regular season to shine, but this is like really exposing the Celtics and what they're capable of. And I think, losing a lot of close games to top contenders, like losing to the Pistons by 6 and they're the number one team in the East, it's like, you know, and they're without Tatum. Like that's going to prove a lot going into the playoffs. So I think even last night's game, you got Luka Garza, you got Hugo Gonzalez on the court at the same time, like Anthony Simons, and they came back and they cut the lead from 20 to 6. And I'm like, that's how you know that this is working a little bit. So I think keep Tatum out for as long as possible, because the more they're going to continue to develop, I think the better they're setting themselves up for the playoffs. I want Tatum to come back right as the playoffs start.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how obviously you play however many games they're going to play before he comes back, and they've built a pretty good rhythm with the
Yeah.
crew that they have right now. So it will be interesting to see how they work, a top 3 player in the world back into that, without not, throwing the whole thing for a loop. But obviously if he's good to go and you're trying to play, win a title, he's in there. But I do agree that it did make it more of an interesting season. I think I was a little bit more intrigued going into the year from a casual perspective that, with Tatum, with Brown, even losing Porzingis and
I think Cornette was the harder one than
yeah,
Porzingis a little bit.
but like losing those guys, it's like even if it's just Tatum and Brown, it's like they're gonna walk through the regular season. They'll be maybe not the 1 seed or the 1 overall, but they'll be a top 3. They'll be home, they'll have home
Home
playoff
advantage.
games.
Yep.
So with this, it's like, okay, we get to see a little bit of a different kind of in the middle of this run with them, you get to see, a different version of them. Obviously, you don't wish for it, like you said, but it's like, well, this is what we have and this is what we have to watch. So I think it is just a different product, and you get to see other guys shine that you may not have seen if Tatum was here all year.
No, and I think that, and again, it's like that's what makes it exciting, right? If you're one of those fans who's like, Tatum's out and the season's over, and it's like, I don't like, I really don't like that energy out of people. I'm like, this is actually a great opportunity to see what they can be. And I think that's the conversation about injuries that gets so tricky, because even when Roman Anthony got injured during the Red Sox season, and everyone is like, it's over. And I'm like, well, let's like focus on what we have and like what we can build. And I do think the wild card was a bit tricky, honestly. Don't really think the umps made a lot of great calls there that really let the Red Sox, go past the wild card. But again, I think it's one of those where it's like it's a bit more exciting to see what you can make out of what you have.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. As we start to kind of wind down, I do have a couple kind of quick questions that I want to go. Actually, before on Derek White, have you met Derek White?
I would love nothing more but to meet Derek White. It hasn't happened yet. I am I'm plotting. I'm trying. I know he has his podcast. They have a small following on TikTok. And I wonder if they've seen my comments.
I'm sure. I'm sure you're on the radar.
I hope so.
I would
I hope
be
so.
I would be surprised. It's these guys know more than you would think, and they've seen more than you would think.
But yeah.
Um, so I would be very surprised if you're not at least on the radar. So I think it's a matter of if, not when, or when, not if.
Well, not if.
Um, but let's see. Besides Derek White, who is an athlete or a brand that you would like to work with?
Oh, that's such a fun question. I actually had an idea a few days ago that I kind of got excited about. So, have you ever heard of the olive oil company Grazia?
Yep, the squeeze
Um,
bottle, right?
Yep, making Luca Garza their spokesperson and making it Luca Grazia, and he does a little series where he cooks, like, some fun meals with, Grazia and, if a basketball player has the time and the ability to do it, so can you, and they're both green. So, I think Celtics, Grazia, sign me up, and I will consult for you, and I'll make it happen.
That that's a perfect answer. What is, one Boston sports take that you will die on? You'll die on the hill.
This is such a good question. Well, I think the obvious answer is like IT4 deserved better, and we never should have traded him, never in a million years. But I feel like that's not really like a die on the hill kind of take. Um, I do have that thought about a lot of Celtics players though. Like Cornette, we never should have given up. I think Cornette could have been like such a better player. I mean, like he already was such a good player. Um,
Where did you stand on Marcus Smart?
if I wasn't Derek White lover, I'd be Marcus Smart lover.
Okay,
I will
okay,
tell you that much. Okay,
okay.
I've cried over a lot of trades in my life. I will never forget the moment where I got the notification that he was going to Memphis. I was like in shell shock for days. And he had his like all of his different endorsements with like Honeydew and Smart Car
Flex
and stuff,
car.
Flex Car, and like,
I was just gonna say, I remember, like, 2 weeks after he was traded driving around and his poster's still all over the city.
oh my god! And they had to edit him and make it a generic black 36 jersey, and I was like, this is the biggest fucking slap in the face since Isaiah Thomas got the boot. Like it was heartbreaking. One take that I will die on is that it was never Mac Jones's fault. I think it was a problem with quarterback development rather than his actual performance. I just don't think he was handed a fair card. I don't even know if that's like the right phrase. Like,
Yeah,
wasn't dealt a fair
Delta
hand.
card, yeah.
Yes. Um, but I do feel for him because I feel like a lot of people in the city, like he came in after, Cam Newton, like whatever. Nobody cared about him. But like him kind of being that next franchise quarterback after Brady, I think he was just set up to fail a little bit by the franchise and by the fans. And so I hold no ill will against him.
Yeah, I mean, you saw what he did filling in for Purdy
Yeah.
this year. It's like he obviously had the tools and, what do you have, 3 coordinators in 3 years? Like, it's nobody's
It
gonna do
it, it
well
was
in that.
messy. It was definitely messy on the front office end a little bit, on the staff end a little bit. So he deserved a little bit better out of New England.
Yeah, I agree, and I wouldn't surprise me if he gets another crack somewhere, um, outside of San Francisco because he did play well. Obviously, when the right situation's around him, he could definitely be a guy.
I agree. I think, send him to, I mean, not that anybody wants to go to the Jets, but you could send him to the Jets. You could send him to the Raiders. It's like there's so many other franchises that I think he would be more of a supplemental starter than he would just sitting on the bench
I think the Colts would have loved to have him.
over 44-year-old Philip Rivers. That's for sure.
He could still make some of the throws, and he obviously knows the game, but it's like I mean, there was that one where he was scrambling out of the pocket last night, and he just had to kinda, like,
The
flip it
way
away.
and I was saying this, I was like, "He doesn't put his arm all the way back, he, like, T-Rexes the ball," and I'm like, "He just looks old out there."
There was the one when he rolled out, and they even called it out on the broadcast, where he was literally looking back over his shoulder at who was behind him, and it's like, I've never seen a
Like, you never
quarterback do that before.
no, ever. My mom was like, "I'm getting anxious watching him. I feel like he's gonna hurt himself." I'm like, "He probably will at some
They
point."
were the 49ers definitely showed him some respect, though. They could have
They
drilled him
could
a
have
couple times,
demolished him, but it's
and
like,
they just kinda gently put him down.
can't do that in front of his whole family.
Yeah. One more. What is, one non we've talked a lot of sports. What's one non-sports thing that you're currently obsessed with or that you like, a outside of sports topic?
Ooh, outside of sports, I'm a big crossword fan. I do the New York Times crossword as much as I possibly can.
Interesting. The full one or the mini?
I do the full.
Wow.
So I'm started so the way that they do it is like your Monday through Saturday are like the hardest ones and then the Sundays are kind of like the biggest themes, like most intricate. So I've been slowly but surely building my way to doing them like and they provide articles with like oh like tricky clues and like certain things to help fill in the bubble, but I've been getting to a point where like I don't even need that anymore. So I'm usually doing like the Monday Tuesday puzzles cuz sometimes a lot of the clues are like this person's like 60 years old making this. I don't know if we necessarily like read all of the same things or know all the same things, but it's something that like really kind of brings me a little bit of like zen and makes me feel a little bit more intellectual after working in social media for 8 hours of my
Yeah.
day.
I have to add something like that, whether it's crossword, um, what's the I love the categories one on the New York Times with
Or
the
connections.
connections. I love
It's a
that
fun
one,
one.
but
Have you
I need
done
to
the athletics one? The athletic does a sports version of it every day too.
ooh, I gotta check that out.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, because I don't do enough brain stimulating things like that, and I just feel like I'm slowly losing it, so I gotta add something like that into my day.
It's
Um,
the easiest way to do it. Like, even if you're doing the Wordle, even if you're doing so spelling bee is another one of my favorites where it gives you the 7 letters and the one in the middle where, like, every word has to have that middle letter in it, and it's like it's something you can just, like, do throughout the day even, it's, like, "Oh, shit," like, I've been, knee deep trying to find, like, a freaking audio on TikTok that's commercially licensed, like, let me go and, like, give my brain a little something to play with, so it's a lot of fun. I'm a big, huge proponent of New York Times games.
I will have to I'm telling you, I gotta add those in because I enjoy them when I do it, and always feel accomplished after getting it done.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Anna, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate you taking the time. Why don't you, shout out obviously your TikTok, but anything else that you're working on or anybody, whatever you got. The
Yeah.
floor is yours.
Shout out Derek White Lover, I guess. Kind of my passion project, kind of, I have always dreamed of just being, working in sports, being in the Boston sports space. So I think this has kind of given me a little something to work with. Red Sox season, I'm trying to work on some fun little things for brand purposes and for endorsement purposes. So might be some writing coming up, might be some like, little beat write action. Gotta get active on Twitter. If you guys want to follow me, D White Lover on Twitter. Definitely gonna start cooking up there too. But just thank you guys for all the love. It's been nothing but a joy getting to push out content and talk Boston sports with you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you to everyone for listening. Go check out Anna. Hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thanks again, Anna. Merry Christmas.
Yes. Merry Christmas, guys.
The sea, turning saints into the sea, swimming.